Right now, there is a ship floating in the Atlantic Ocean, 147 passengers and crew on board. They cannot leave. 3 people are already dead. Multiple countries have refused to let the ship dock. And the virus killing people on that ship has no treatment. No cure, no vaccine. This is happening right now, today. May 2026. The ship is called MV Hondius, and the virus on board is called Hantavirus. And what is unfolding on that ship is something the world has not seen before. Let us start from the beginning. April 1st, 2026. The MV Hondius departs from Ushuaia, Argentina, the southernmost city on Earth. 147 passengers and crew from 23 different countries: Spain, United Kingdom, United States, the Netherlands, Germany. A luxury expedition cruise, Antarctica, remote Atlantic islands, a dream trip. Nobody on that ship knew what was already on board with them because the virus does not announce itself. It hides. For up to 6 weeks, it hides inside the body before the first symptom appears. 6 weeks of silence. The first to get sick was a 70-year-old Dutch man. Fever, headache, abdominal pain, diarrhea. The ship's doctor treated him for what looked like a gastrointestinal illness. Common on ships, probably nothing serious. He died on April 11th. Still at sea. His body remained on board until April 24th when the ship stopped at St. Helena, the remote British island in the middle of the South Atlantic. His wife had been with him the entire time. She disembarked at St. Helena with symptoms of her own. She deteriorated rapidly. She was flown to Johannesburg, South Africa on April 25th. She died upon arrival at the emergency department on April 26th. A husband and wife, both dead within 2 weeks of each other, on what was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. And then more people got sick. A man with fever, shortness of breath, and signs of pneumonia, medically evacuated to South Africa, currently in intensive care. A woman who developed symptoms on April 28th. She died on May 2nd. More suspected cases still on board. And then on May 6th, a passenger who had already disembarked weeks earlier tested positive in Switzerland. Switzerland, the virus had already left the ship. It was already in Europe. By May 7th, the WHO had confirmed 5 cases and 8 suspected, 3 dead. The ship stranded off the coast of Cape Verde. Tenerife and the Canary Islands refused to let it dock. The regional president of the Canary Islands said openly, "I cannot allow this ship to enter. Not after what we went through with COVID. 146 people, 23 nationalities, floating, nowhere to go, and the virus still incubating in some of them." Now let us talk about what hantavirus actually is, because most people have never heard of it, and the ones who have associated it with mice in barns, not with luxury cruise ships in the Atlantic. Hantavirus is carried by rodents, rats, mice, voles. The virus lives in their urine, feces, and saliva. A human breathes in contaminated dust, touches contaminated surfaces, and then touches their face. And that is enough. That is all it takes. The leading theory right now is that the Dutch couple who were the first cases contracted the virus before they ever boarded the ship. They had spent 4 months traveling through Argentina, Chile, and Uruguay on a birdwatching trip. Remote locations, wilderness areas, places where the rodents carrying this specific strain of hantavirus live. They boarded the ship on April 1st already infected, already carrying the virus without knowing it. And then the 6-week incubation clock ran out, mid-ocean. But here is what makes the MV Hondius outbreak scientifically alarming. There are many strains of hantavirus. Most of them can only be caught from rodents. No human-to-human transmission. You cannot catch it from another person. But the strain on this ship is different. It is the Andes strain, found in Argentina and parts of South America. And the Andes strain is the only known hantavirus in the world that can spread from human to human. The only one. Even then, it requires close contact, sharing a bed, sharing food, extended time in enclosed spaces, but on a ship with 147 people in close quarters. That is exactly the environment where close contact is unavoidable. Every meal together, every corridor, every shared space. The ship itself became the risk. And what does hantavirus do to the body? Because this is the part that explains why 3 people are dead. The Andes strain causes what is called hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. It starts like the flu. Fever, muscle aches, fatigue, nausea. 4 to 10 days of feeling like you have a bad cold, and then it shifts rapidly. The lungs begin to fill with fluid. Breathing becomes difficult, then labored, then impossible without a ventilator. The progression from first symptoms to respiratory failure can happen in hours, not days, hours. And the fatality rate of hantavirus pulmonary syndrome is between 35 and 50%, 35 to 50%, even in a modern hospital with full intensive care, and on a ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Hours from the nearest proper medical facility, the odds are worse. Here is what makes the response to this outbreak so complicated. Hantavirus has no specific treatment. There are no antivirals that work against it, no vaccine. Doctors put patients on ventilators. They manage the fluid in the lungs. They support organ function. And they wait. The same position doctors have been in since hantavirus was first identified in 1993. Over 30 years, and still nothing to fight it with directly. The ship's doctor himself became sick. The person responsible for treating the infected patients got infected. He was one of the 3 people medically evacuated on May 6th, flown to Leiden University Medical Center in the Netherlands. The doctor became the patient. Now, here is the detail that is making global health authorities very careful with their words. Most of the 147 people on that ship are healthy. No symptoms. No confirmed infection. The WHO has repeatedly said the global risk is low. Not a COVID situation. Not an airborne pathogen spreading across continents. But some of those passengers disembarked at various stops along the route before the outbreak was fully understood. Before anyone knew what was happening. They went home. To their countries, to their families, to their normal lives, carrying a virus with a 6-week incubation window. The cruise operator on May 7th confirmed they were working to track every single passenger and crew member who had been on the Hondius since March 20th. Every single one. Because they do not know yet where all of them are, or how many of them were exposed. This story has one more detail that nobody is saying loudly enough. The Canary Islands refused the ship. Spain refused. 146 people floating in the Atlantic with sick passengers on board and no country willing to take them. The WHO stepped in publicly. They said Spain had a moral and legal obligation to assist. The passengers included Spanish citizens, American citizens, British citizens, German citizens. People whose own governments were watching a ship full of their nationals being turned away from port after port. This is what a virus does to the world. It does not just attack bodies, it closes borders. It turns away ships. It puts 147 people in a floating limbo while governments argue about risk and responsibility. We saw it in 2020. We are seeing it again, in real time, right now, today. Here is the thought I want to leave you with. The MV Hondius left Argentina on April 1st. A dream expedition, Antarctica, remote islands, the end of the world. 2 bird watchers who had been traveling through the wilderness of South America for 4 months. No idea what was in the dust they breathed. No idea what was in the droppings of the rodents near where they walked. And now 3 people are dead. A ship is stranded. Countries are refusing to help. And a Swiss hospital is treating a patient who left that ship weeks ago thinking he was fine. Hantavirus did not come from a laboratory. It did not escape from somewhere secret. It came from a rat, in a field, in Argentina, and it followed 2 bird watchers onto a cruise ship and changed everything. That is the world we live in, where the wilderness and the human world are not separate anymore, where a birdwatching trip can become an international health crisis, where a ship full of retirees on vacation ends up stranded in the Atlantic with no country willing to open its port. The virus does not know about borders. It does not know about cruise itineraries. It does not know about retirement savings spent on a dream trip. It just replicates. And right now it is replicating on the MV Hondius, somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, and the world is watching, waiting to see what happens next. What do you think? Should Spain have let that ship dock, or was refusing the right decision? Drop your answer in the comments, because this debate is happening right now in governments across Europe, and there is no easy answer. And if this video found you at exactly the right moment, because this story is breaking right now, there is one small thing you can do. Hit subscribe, because every week on Sick Nature, we go deeper into the things that live, spread, and evolve in the shadows of nature. Viruses, fungi, parasites, the hidden world most people never see. You found this channel for a reason. Do not miss what comes next.